So, a lot of people over the last couple weeks, I keep seeing it brought up and stuff, but I I figure I would just mention it here because I have seen a lot of people talking about, oh, it's going to hurt to say it, Shadowlands. Ooh, ooh. And there's been a lot of talk about stuff that, Shadowlands did wrong, Shadowlands did right. There was people trying to get nostalgic about Shadowlands, people saying their favorite parts, their least favorite parts about the expansion. And it has brought up the conversation once again, especially among like bigger streamers and stuff like that, that whether or not Shadowlands did irreparable damage to World of Warcraft. Now, I cannot speak for everyone. However, we can ask the question, did Shadowlands hurt World of Warcraft? Did it hurt the Warcraft franchise? And I would say yes, without a fucking doubt, 100%. Because however you look at Shadowlands, whether you look at it from a lore perspective or a gameplay perspective, or from someone who only does raiding, or someone who does Mythic Plus, or someone who just, enjoys like the outdoor world and things like that, it was an L in every single category. Like, you can argue, like, okay, maybe the environments were good. I had people, I have friends who, like, it hurt their eyes to go to Ardenweald because it was so blue. They had to get, like, blue filters on their glasses and stuff. Or they had to get blue filter monitors just to go there. So, yeah, sure, but then, like, okay, yeah, sure, like, okay, like, Bastion's pretty. Okay, yeah, sure. But then you go and look at something like Oribos, and you're like, okay, I have been in this city for 2 fucking years. I still don't know where everything is. Because it's a fucking giant circle and nothing's color-coded. Not even the map is. But alongside, the different scandals and the allegations that happened, and along with the weird fucking censoring that Blizzard tried to do afterwards, where they, like, took all those pictures of, like, the scantily clad lemon and they just made them fruit and stuff like that. Especially because that stuff's been in the world for fucking ever. I think that Shadowlands, and for the most part, Battle for Azeroth, being the way that they were, drastically and maybe permanently damaged World of Warcraft as a franchise and a brand. Because, like, and I mainly say that it's probably, how do I want to word this? So, the allegations and stuff were really bad, right? However, if it was just the allegations and, like, Shadowlands was really good, I don't think it would have had nearly as much of an effect on the game as if both Shadowlands being bad and the scandals being bad, together. Because, and I say this because I know Riot, which is, I think it's fair to compare Riot to Blizzard as a company, since they're both pretty, like, they're basically on the same level when it comes to the stuff that they're doing or will be doing. Riot had similar scandals in the past, but, like, their games were good. So nobody really gave a shit about them. Now, I'm not saying that, like, excuses what happened, but, that's how it is, right? So, like, a lot of people I know argue that Shadowlands was only bad because of the lawsuits or whatever, which is just not fucking true. Shadowlands was bad because Shadowlands was fucking bad. And the lack of, or with the addition of a lawsuit, it wasn't going to change anything. Now, for me, I can't really speak for everyone on this, but for me personally, when it comes to Shadowlands and its legacy, like, looking back on it, I I know a lot of people talk about how much fun they were having at the very start of Shadowlands. I was not one of those people. I was fucking miserable. I did not like Shadowlands at all. And it was really the Sylvanas stuff that happened in 9.1 that finally like flipped the switch in my brain, and I was like, this is not good. You know? And I have not really gotten over that mentality for WoW. Like, it's very much like, I don't really know how to like describe it that well. I guess you could argue it's kind of like waking up from like a vivid dream and realizing that the dream that you just had was actually shitty or something, you know? Like, it was like, or, you know, I don't even know. Like, it's such a unique situation with Shadowlands because I have never experienced something like it in my life. But I think I kind of understand, like, you know, after seeing how Shadowlands played out and the legacy it has left behind, I think I understand, like, you know how people were like really mad at like that new He-Man show, or they were mad at the Star Wars sequel trilogy or whatever, and like I didn't really understand it. Now, I didn't like the sequels, but like I didn't really understand the impact that it had. However, after Shadowlands being the way that it was, I think I came to that understanding. Like, I realized what they saw that was so bad. And it was the fact that, like, it really just fucking killed the magic. You know, like, because WoW has always had this, at least for me, it's always had this magic about it. It's always had this nostalgia for me. Because I have played WoW for many, many years. And the game has, of course it's changed, but it always felt like it was evolving from what it once was. I felt like the game was getting older and that, you know, I was comfortable with it. And then Shadowlands was like the big breakup, you know. It was like being with someone for 17 years and then walking up to them and being like, well, I don't love you anymore. See ya. It's like, it's really sad when you think about it, but that's kind of like the only way I can really describe it. And like, look, Dragonflight is great, right? But the spark that was put out with Shadowlands, it still ain't lit for someone like me. Like, I can sit here all day and talk with you about how good Dragonflight is. You know, I can sit here and I can, you know, say how good the world is getting, how good cutscenes look, how much the story has improved, how good the Heritage Armor quest lines were, or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, Shadowlands, at least for me, permanently damaged the way I look at WoW. Because there was I would say that up until Shadowlands, if there was ever like and the idea that WoW could die, right? Like WoW, like let's say like WoW dies, you know, the servers shut off forever and that's it. There's no more. All your shit's gone. For a while I'd be like, oh no, I'd be heartbroken, you know, because I have so many memories and things in this game, and you know, all these different experiences, all these characters that I've spent fucking years of my life on, and of course, like, you'd be heartbroken, you know. But nowadays it's like, well, if you know, WoW turns off, it's like, yeah, sure, I'd be kind of sad, but like, I would just shrug and go play Final Fantasy. And I think that really bleeds into the idea that, like, a lot of people during Shadowlands found alternatives because the way they look at WoW was shifted. You know, like how I just talked and I said that, like, I look at this game with lots of nostalgia. I've spent so much time with it. You know, it's like a lover. But then, you know, the lover goes and cheats on you and now it's not the same. And that's kind of the feeling that Shadowlands had, was that it was a betrayal of the last, like, 17 years of your life. And I know this has also brought up a lot of different ideas that, like, oh, well, like, well, could we just retcon Shadowlands? Like, I know that there was a post. Let me get it in here. It should be here somewhere. Yeah, here we go. So this person on Twitter, a little while ago, May 27th, his name is Krelevane, and he said, if Blizzard genuinely decided to retcon Shadowlands, would you accept it? Because the whole conversation of Shadowlands, and especially with, you know, how you can really look at Dragonflight and be like, well, it's like Shadowlands didn't even exist, you know? There's been a lot of discussion about, you know, retconning it, just getting rid of it, because everyone knows, whether or not you really liked Shadowlands or not, everyone knows that it did a lot of fucking damage to this game. And so the idea comes, it's like, okay, well, if it's that bad, cut it out, get rid of it. But the thing is that, should it be retconned? Well, no. And I say no because you physically can't. Like, look, this is my response to this. I said, as much as I hate Shadowlands, I definitely don't think a retcon of its entirety is something that is feasibly possible at this point. But, like, I did say that they do need to walk a lot back of what they did, which is doable, and I do think it is. And I think that we've already seen that, especially with the Orc Heritage Armor questline, where they are giving the orcs and their spirits and making them the actual spirits instead of like these weird echoes that don't really exist, that exist in this weird limbo outside of the cycle or whatever. But like, I don't think it's possible, especially because you have like, you have the Sylvanas stuff, and well, basically you would waste like all this time, and like, I guess like, no, I just don't think you could retcon it. Like a big chunk of a lot of character stories would just be gone. And I know for a lot of people that they would want them gone, but like, we are well and past go. Like, there is no, you can't pump the brakes, because if you pump the brakes, you're gonna get fucking T-boned by the guy behind you. So you really can't. And I know that this has been a discussion with past expansions as well. I know a lot of people wanted to retcon Warlords of Draenor because Warlords of Draenor was really, really bad. And as someone who didn't like Warlords of Draenor, I was never for it being retconned, because they ended up taking WoD and what happened with it, and they ended up running with it, and they made it like pretty good. Like, the whole idea that like Gul'dan comes over from the alternate timeline, and he causes more problems, and he becomes like, at least for me, he became like the first raid boss that I ever truly wanted to like go out and kill. Because he was just like I was all about like, I was like, bro, fuck this dude. He's killing my homies. Like, he killed my fucking king. He killed Vol'jin. Like, I want this dude dead. And I went out of my way to fucking make sure that I killed his ass. And I wanted to fucking do the raid to kill him. And I was like, you know what? Because of that, I respect WoD. Because he came from WoD. And it made me, and I got a lot more respect from WoD afterwards, during BFA, with the whole Maghar questline, which I know a lot of people didn't like, but I like the idea that after we left, that the Draenei, in conquest and in lieu of making sure that there can never be another Iron Horde, they basically started like converting or genociding the orcs. And it was like, and it's like really fucked up, but it's such an interesting concept, especially because if your alliance, like, you built them up as that. Like, you made them the victors in that war, and it caused that to happen. And especially for the Alliance, we don't get a lot of, like, inner turmoil and stuff. And I also think that there is a big difference between something like Shadowlands and Warlords of Draenor, right? Because, like, yeah, sure, while they're both expansions, like, let me put it to you like this. So Shadowlands changed a lot of what made WoW, right? Shadowlands became the root of a lot of lore that had been set in stone for fucking decades. Like, we're talking like how death worked, what the Shadowlands were, like, you know, adding the jailer into the mix, slapping the label of like the Dreadlords being the servants of the jailer, like all this time, and all this different shit. But then you had WoD, which is like, WoD didn't have any of that. You know, like, Warlords of Draenor didn't come out and then it became the root of like the orcish horde that we knew. You know, it's not like we didn't already know where the orcs came from. And so when we saw like an alternate past Draenor, like, nothing really changed, especially because it was an alternate timeline. You know, like I guess the best way to say it is, like, Warlords of Draenor being dog shit did not go and alter the way that, like, and make Grom Hellscream in our timeline any less badass. You know what I mean? Because the Grom that we were getting is an alternate Grom Hellscream. Like, he was not our Grom. Like, it's not like Garrosh went back in the past and it changed Grom Hellscream, and so now the Grom Hellscream that we knew is alive and he's a villain or something, you know? It's like that Grom Hellscream died a fucking hero, and this other one is being misguided by his crackhead son. You know what I mean? Like, it's two different, completely different fundamental levels of them, right? And I think when it comes to Shadowlands, it retroactively went back and it altered what a lot of people found nostalgic and great about the game's setting, and it destroyed the illusion of what made Warcraft after 17 years, and sometimes even more than that if you're going back to the RTS, of just like good storytelling, alright storytelling, but storytelling that was that felt like it belonged, that didn't undermine what came before it, you know? I don't know, that's me when it comes to this stuff. But for me, you know, like I said earlier, like, look, if WoW ever dies nowadays, like, even with how good Dragonflight is, like, I just don't have the drive to play it as much as I did. And I don't really care to anymore, you know? I have done everything, and the things that they have added, like, yeah, but it doesn't change what you took away or altered, right? And so for me, like, yeah, if, like, let's say WoW dies, if the server shut off next year for good, I'm gonna shrug and I'm gonna go play Final Fantasy.